again. It's time for the next part of this inventory. Today, we're going to program these buttons to be used. Let's drag that inventory over here onto the tabs, over to the graph. We're going to come down here under button clicked. We're going to grab button underscore use and select unclicked. I don't know why it's taking us all the way down there, but that's all right. Let's drag that back up here. And while we're here, we'll also get button dropped. I'm not sure if we'll have time to program that today, but we'll get it ready just in case. So step one is going to be, in our item, we will have an event. That event will fire, but because we're going to have a lot of items with the same event, and we want those events to essentially be plug and play as opposed to referring to a specific event in a specific item, we'll do what we did with our weapons. Let's go back over to the test map and create ourselves an interface. So let's right click over to blueprints, blueprint interface, I_inventory. Open up, and the first function will be use item. And then we'll add another one. And that one will be called drop item. Super easy, simple, straightforward. Let's hit compile and save on that and go back over to the test map, into blueprints, into pickups, into base pickup or pickup base, as I keep referring to it the other way around. Go to class settings, and down here where it says interfaces, let's add I_inventory. Compile and save that, which means that in this script, we can now use item and we can call the event use item, which means we can call this event elsewhere. So with that done, let's pop back over to inventory and set up the calling function. So we'll grab our reference underscore hero again and our inventory attached to it because we're going to need to call the item itself. Then we'll drag off this and we can get a reference, and we'll refer to our inventory slot clicked as which item to get inside that inventory. Remembering that inventory slot clicked is set here when we click on the button, and those buttons all have corresponding numbers. So now let's break inventory. And with the item reference here, we can drag out of that and go use item and get the message. So when we use our item inventory, we will call that script. And if we don't want to use anything else here, we can hit hide unconnected pins. Same goes for this guy over here, just to keep things clean. So we can now use that. And similarly, if we were to copy all of this over and drag off of this, we could also get drop item. So that's the first step. Next up, let's drag off of this and type in cast to base pickup. And luckily Unreal can understand that I'm referring to pickup base, even though I keep saying it the wrong way around. And because we have the option, let's convert to pure cast so that we can just grab our reference here. So the next thing I want to check for, and this is jumping a bit ahead, but I'd rather just set it up and we can refer to it later, is whether this item is one use or not. So this will come in handy for inventory items that we can only use once and then they're gone. And then if it's not a one-use item and it's something we can continuously reuse, then this would be false. We would set that variable over in pickup base. So let's hit a drop down, call this one use item ? We'll compile and save that. So that's just a Boolean that we want to check. And now from pickup base, we can drag off of that and get one use item and ask whether it is a one-use item or not, and plug that into the branch there. So if it's a one-use item, then we'll move on to the next part of this script. Let's copy over reference hero inventory slot clicked, and move that over here. We don't need the getter because we're going to get another node, and it is called remove index. So we are removing an item from that particular index of the inventory. And then once we've done that, we need to refresh the inventory so that the inventory knows that that item no longer exists, so it can update the image and the actions. And then we want to call the cancel button again, but rather than call that cancel button immediately, let's go custom event and call this action complete, because this is essentially what happens when we've done something successfully. We will come out of the action menu back into the inventory, which will be the same script here. And then we will call that event after that, action complete. So to test that this is working, we'll compile and save here. Inside of base pickup, even though we're not going to use the event inside of base pickup, this will be unique to every item. Let's get a print string, and we will plug that in, and we will say item used with an exclamation mark because we're excited that the item was used. Hit play on that. We're going to walk up to the item, press E to pick it up, and then I'm going to press I, go down to inventory. I'm going to select the item. I'm going to use the item. Item has been used. Because I haven't got one use item selected on this, it means that the item stayed in the inventory, which means I can keep using the item. We are getting that print string, and that's what we want. But what happens when it is a one use item? Let's select this variable, click on that, compile and save. Now we'll play again, pick up the item, press I, down to inventory, and now when I use the item, it disappears. The other thing we need to do is also set this back to 0 so that it's not telling us we have one of this item. We're also going to set up what happens when we have more than one item. So to do this, we need to ask how many items we have. Let's grab this break inventory. Let's put on the amount pin, drag these guys up so we can slip that under there. And we're going to check. Before we do all of this, we're going to check that the amount we have, whether it's equal to 1 or not. Put a reroutable there. If it is equal to 1 item, let's put the number 1 there, then we will continue this script. But if it's not equal to 1, and because if it's equal to 0, it won't be in our inventory, then we can assume that we have more than one of the item. So if that's the case, then we just need to subtract an amount from this item. To do that, let's grab our reference hero inventory again. We're going to get a reference to the exact item we're talking about. So we'll get inventory slot clicked again. And then once we have that, so assuming again that we have the right item from the inventory, then we're going to set members in the struct. So let's grab amount, and we want to set amount to whatever amount was over here minus 1. We might clean this up a little bit later. Maybe we'll get it from here instead. That might make some sense. So whatever our amount was minus 1, we'll plug this into false. And then on the end of this, we need to set array element like here. We'll grab that index over here. And we'll grab a reference to the array itself right here. Which means we're going to need to make a reroutable there so we can clean this up. And then that's what's going to happen instead. And then we'll refresh inventory and action will be complete. The fix for our one use item is quite easy. We just need to drag off the false pin and plug it in there. But that looks really ugly. So instead of doing that, we're going to double click here. And we're going to plug false into that reroutable and drag the reroutable down here. Nothing we can really do to avoid that crossover there. So that will be okay for now. We will live with it. So to reiterate, first thing we do is use the item. Then we check if it was a one-use item. If it was a one-use item, we check if we have more than one of it. And if we have more than one of it, we'll come down here and just subtract one off of that item. If we don't have more than one of it, so if it's not equal to 1, then we're going to remove that item from the inventory. And then no matter what we do, we need to refresh the inventory and action complete, which will shut down the action menu. To test this, we're going to need to compile, save, enter the world, and create another pickup base. We'll put that pickup base there. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go to the viewport. I'm going to grab the box here and I'm going to make that 75, 75, 75. So we can stand next to the item, not necessarily on top of it, to pick it up. Hitting play. Now when I walk next to the item and I pick it up, then base pickup has been picked up. When I walk up here and pick this up, it's going to add the item to the inventory. So I'm going to actually have two versions of this item, but seeing as they are one-use items, when I use this item, it will disappear and this will be moved up in the slot. And when I use this item, it will disappear again. So if we had multiple items in the inventory we're set, we're going to come back to this duplicate script. That might take a little bit more work inside the actual pickup base, but drop item is going to be super easy. All we're going to do with drop item is, after we've checked if it's a one-use item, because that's irrelevant to whether or not we're dropping the item or not, we will double click right here and attach drop item there. So basically when we drop an item, we will fire the script, which we will go and program, and then we will check if we have a duplicate. And if we don't have a duplicate, then we will remove that item. If we do, we'll just subtract one of those items and then refresh the inventory and close the action menu. So let's compile and save that. The drop item script itself will be fired off in the actual base pickup because it's going to be the same for every item. So we'll get event drop item. So in standard fashion, we need to put the item in front of us once we've dropped it. So let's get reference hero. We will then get actor location, so where we are in the world. Then we're going to set world location. And we're going to drag default scene route in here. So let's grab drop item, plug that into there, and the location will be where we are with an addition. That addition will be a vector plus vector. And for now, we will go with 250 on the X and 250 on the Z. So it will be in front of us and a little bit higher. We will also teleport and sweep. Remember, when we picked up this item over here, we actually set its visibility and set its collision. So now we're going to go and undo that. Let's grab set visibility for default scene route and static mesh. And we'll also, holding shift, grab set collision enabled, drag these guys down here, drag them together because they don't need to be that spread apart, and we'll set our visibility to true. So we're going to be able to see the item once it's been teleported. Collision will drop over here. And for this, we will go collision enabled, compile and save that. Walk up to the item, pick it up, press I, down to inventory, select the item. Now when I go drop, and I exit the inventory and the menu, if you were to look up and to your left, you'll see that the item's actually been spawned in the air. However, it is functioning as intended. We'll go and turn physics on there just so that we can see it drop to the ground. So now our items have fallen down. If I was to run into it, it'll do that. Now I've got to chase it. That's why I didn't want to turn physics on just yet. Inventory, enter, drop item, back here, back. And if I was to look over here, it has been dropped. So the item is being dropped, not directly in front of us, but we'll need to take rotation into account there. We will do that probably at a later date because this is already kind of blowing out to a long episode. We will come back, handle our duplicate items, and then we will almost be finished with this inventory system.